Okay, now you get to watch me throw out my bag and knock over this entire table in all likelihood. Okay, that is heavy as fuck. And I'm backwards. Okay, we're gonna balance that. Whew. And like that? No, I'm going to, yeah. My other thing. Okay. It's really interesting to me. You can either order the stretch version of these bolts, or you can order the torque version. And you know, the torque ones are actually way cheaper, but I was like, well, I already have a micrometer, so I might as well get the one that's better. Should be like 2 point. Yeah, I need to get a pair of gloves though, so I don't fuck up my hands. I'll give you one. I also bought like a bunch more gloves on.
There's like a complicated scale.
Yeah. I really honestly should have gotten the electric one, but it was like triple the price. And I was like, I'm gonna use this tool exactly one time. That's sick. So I always love going through really old logbooks, because it's like all this shit from like, wow, they paid $2 for an engine overhaul in 1980. like that's great. Catch you later, Chief. It is $760 for all 12 bolts. So they're about $65 each. And that's not including the cost of the nuts, which is even more. So these bolts go through here. This is what the bolt head looks like. It's weird. And then this is what keeps the connector rod off. So once I can do this, I can take off the connecting rod. And we're gonna do that because I gotta do that to measure all these journals, but I need to get some tape.
What is this like gouge, this stuff like right here and right here?
So this is, I actually just asked A&P guy this. These are actually...
That's how they balance it? They grind it?
Well, no, so these are remnants, so these are forged. So they're all forged as a single piece of steel. These are leftovers from the forging process, but they get ground. These get ground because they do like static balancing. So when it's rotating, they grind these, and you can even see it. If you look on the case here, they do
to balance.
Yeah, they do all sorts of grinding all over the case. I mean, you see marks here. These are from the factory. But yeah, they're neat. I mean, to me, these things are like works of art. You know, to me, they're very beautiful. And you know, I haven't taken apart any engine before, but I was just like, it doesn't seem too crazy. It's just a lot of work, you know, to get these. You know what I might do?
You want to buy new ones? Why?
Well, when you overhaul the engine, you need to replace these. So for me to inspect this thing, these need to come off. Anytime these come off, the bearings underneath need to get replaced. So there's bearings that go around both here, but there's also bearings on the inside of here. So when I take this off, this sits on a bearings, and these need to be replaced. The bearings need to be replaced.
Even though it's just an Iran, you can't expect it to.
Well, this is going to be a major overhaul. So originally I was going to do an Iran, and I was only going to take apart the top half and only redo the cylinders. But I just decided to do a complete overhaul. And essentially, so an overhaul doesn't need to be done by a shop. You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself as a shop. Yeah. But even if it was certified, you can do it. The overhaul process is just a list of parts that always need to be replaced, no matter how good they look. Like for instance, I took these bearings off. These bearings looked very good. I mean, believe it or not, these look very good. And you know, technically, I looking at it, I don't even think I needed to take apart the bottom end. It looks really great. But when you take it off, anytime you do that, you need to replace it.
I wouldn't be surprised if my engine stops in my air.
How many hours do you have on it?
The aircraft's 25 years old and has 350 hours.
350 hours on the engine?
The whole airplane.
The whole airplane. Yeah, this one has 1,900 hours on it. But it's going to have 0 time on the prop. I'm getting a new prop and the engine, but
that engine had to get real, or at least inspected, because it had a prop stripe at 59 hours.
At 59 hours.
So it's got 300 hours.
Yeah, I mean, if it was when did that inspection take place, though?
24 years ago.
24 years ago, huh?
Thing's never flown. It's never fucking flown.
It's never
horrible.
Have you flown? Well,
I've got 10 hours on it.
You've got 10 hours on it.
It went 19 years and flew 65 hours in 19 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends.
No, you're right. It depends where they kept it.
Sometimes you can
turn the prop.
You can still get a good engine as long as it hasn't been like overly ground run too much.
Yeah. Or sitting on the beach.
Well, honestly, even if it sits, it's not the biggest. It's not the biggest deal. As long as you don't get corrosion in the engine.
That's why I lowballed it too. I didn't complete lowball.
Where did you?
In Jackson, in Westover, right?
You bought it from somewhere in California?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're probably good if you bought it
in Arizona before that.
Yeah, if you bought it in California, you know, I need to watch a YouTube video on how to use this thing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at it, and I just can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Like YouTube is the the king of learning how to do crap. I keep doing that. Oh yeah, I like the paint job on it. They did a great job. Oh, this is also something I gotta fucking redo. Yeah, it's funny, I recorded a video of me doing this, and I think it comes out, or it already came out, but I need to redo it because I just wasn't happy, because this thing is made of aluminum instead of steel. I got a steel one all the way. And I'm gonna convert this to, does yours have electric trim? Oh, that's nice.
So there was this.
No nav. The 650 has a comm and a nav.
Yeah, if I was to do it, a 650 would makes the most sense because
What
it's got the
autopilot's
radio in it. It's all Garmin. It's there's no face for it. I wish it had a head, but it's not. You have to go into the.
What's that then?
Because they keep your normal Bendix mag on one side, and then they run electronic.
Oh,
Because if
you have
got
an EMAG?
Yeah, electronic mag. Yeah.
And so you have, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I have two Bendix, so yeah.
Yeah, so they a lot of people do one. I wouldn't. I would put two and then have a backup power source. And then
I
you
mean,
don't need. But
EMAGs are great for efficiency. You know, I would have gotten one, but I just sent in so the mags I'm getting are going to be completely overhauled. I actually just paid the bill for that. It was fun. And then the cylinders are also going to be freshly.
cockpit when it's
Nice. So actually,
that was me flying.
it's funny, the panel, I really like the panel that they have here. There's a name for it. It's called like a something view. This one has the flat panel.
All right.
So I'm actually going to cut a flat panel. And actually I have this design out in CAD. So I'm actually have an iPad mount. It's going to go in the panel flush.
I see that one airline pilot has that.
Yeah, I've had it in my Cirrus.
Did you see that guy out of Texas? He has that iPad there.
Yeah. You know, do you have the throttle handles?
Yeah.
Oh, those are so much better. This one has the thing. I was thinking about getting the throttle handles, but then I realized it'd be too much of a pain in the ass. I much prefer, because I had a Cirrus before, and the Cirrus before was a throttle handle. So I much prefer the feel of that versus the push-pull, but the push-pull aren't bad either.
I'm going to show you guys, just going to be taking some measurements of all of the journals. Lycoming has min and max specs, and luckily we were all in spec for all of them. So I'm pretty happy with that result.
Got two of these off. Now, just going to continue removing them. So my battery's about to die on my camera, but I'll show you guys how I measure one of these. We'll do the front main journal first. We're gonna take 3 measurements. We're gonna try to spice it up as much as we can. One here, one here, one here, just on different sides. Once we get those measurements, we're going to enter them into this logbook that we're gonna create. And I believe this should be about 2.6, I believe is what we're looking for. And we wanna get this just on there so it falls under its own weight is what we're looking for. Just a little bit looser than that. Let's see what we got. 2. Oh shit. I've knocked it against the thing. So I did the math and it comes out to 2.6264, and we get 2.625 here. Because we have a 1 here on this right here, we add 0.001, which makes it 2.626. And then to get our last place, we look at what does this one on the left line up most, and I see it as 0.004. So our final measurement for this one is 2.6264. And we're gonna do that 3 times on different spots across the front main bearing. I'm sorry, the front main journal. And then we're going to measure the other ones. So yeah, I'll just do that real quick. I gotta say, it's looking really good so far. Measured all of these. They're literally right on 2.262, which is perfect, but I'll show you guys. I'm measuring one of the intermediate ones right now, and you just sort of let it sit over there, let it fall under its own weight. And the YouTube gurus tell me to just barely hold it here, and we just want to let it fall and get it to where there's only a very slight amount of resistance. Got it to where there's just a very slight amount. We can measure that result. So it's 2.625 plus the 0.1 here, and sorry, correction, I actually meant to say 2.6260. We're gonna fill out the rest of these. I got the main bearing from my intermediate main bearing, and then I'm doing the second intermediate main bearing, and then we're going to do the rear main bearing, and then we can do all of the cylinder clearances as well, just to have it. Good news, finished doing all of them, and they all came back, not just within spec, but at the very top of the spec. You know, really, you couldn't even get better results than this. So it's in really good shape. Now we just got to look at it and, you know, see if there's any cracks. Not that I can see any, but once we get this magnetic thing fired up, we're going to be able to tell for certain. And something we might do today as well, since I'm here, but I don't feel like booting up the magnetic bench. What I might do today is measure the clearances for the camshaft as well. I can do all my measurements today, and then maybe tomorrow or another day I actually sit down and do all the cleaning that's required. You can see here's all of the connecting rods that were removed. We're going to keep them, although I am going to sell these bolts. These bolts cannot be reused, or at least that's the recommended thing to do by light combing. Technically you could if you stretch them beyond what they were originally at, in theory, but I bought new ones. They're on the way. Actually, originally I bought them and then USPS lost it, so now I have to buy more that are coming. And we have new bearings already in the boxes all the way over there. But I am going to sell these bearings because they might be good in an airboat build, and with a build that gets as expensive as this one, every little dollar counts. So let's go ahead and measure all of the things we want to measure for the camshaft, just to make sure. Camshaft also looks pretty good, but we are going to make sure, absolutely. And we also want traceability. So if anything ever goes wrong in the future in this engine, we want people to be able to go back at the books and say, these values were correct. This inspection looked correct. Not just because of the fact that, yeah, it looks great, but even if it didn't look great, we want to be able to see over time, what does that look like? So they should be able to go back through the engine logs and say, okay, our bearing clearances were perfect at some point. So we want to be able to look at them and say what happened, look at the historical data and say, why is this not round anymore? Or why is this less than it used to be? And maybe that can help us diagnose things in the engine, or whoever owns this engine in the future. Maybe not me, maybe me, I don't know.